In this episode of War and Nature, we travel to Malaysian part of Borneo to discover one of the last primary forests in Asia. My name is Paul Hilton. I'm a conservation photojournalist and I've spent the last 20 years documenting wildlife crime across the globe. From the jungles of Asia to the shark fin markets in Taiwan, exposing the atrocities of the pangolin trade. From Africa to the border areas of Laos, Myanmar and Thailand in the Golden Triangle. I report from the front lines, tracking wildlife crime and acting as a voice for the voiceless. But it's a job that sometimes comes with huge risk. Putting my life on the line to expose criminals profiting from this savage industry. And in those quiet moments when I take a photograph, I try to connect with that animal. I can almost feel their fate. But it really doesn't have to be like this. Biodiversity creates ecosystems that maintain the balance of all life. It affects the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. Throughout my career, I've always tried to illustrate the scale of what we as a species are up against. My intentions are to move people to act, to become part of the solution. We are en route to one of the planet's last true wild places, to meet those on the front lines of defence for some of the most spectacular biodiversity. Join us on this journey as we explore the last wild places. We visit wildlife crime hotspots and meet the people that can give us first-hand information on what's really happening on the ground. In the heart of Borneo, there is an ancient rainforest like no other. It is an ecosystem that is virtually self-contained, as though it exists on a separate planet. Some call it Sabah's lost world. The DaMaI ecosystem is one of the last intact primary rainforests in Asia, home to the tallest tropical trees in the world, and a critical habitat for endangered megafauna like the Borneo pygmy elephants, clouded leopards and orangutan. Despite its international significance, this untouched rainforest is under risk. With 80% of Malaysian Borneo degraded by logging and rhinos declared extinct in 2019 in Malaysian Borneo, this pristine, untouched rainforest needs better protection. Come with us and discover how global conservation is helping to protect this last pristine forest ecosystem here in Borneo, Malaysia. Let us show you the beauty, the threats. It really is a war in nature. We landed in Kota Kinabalu, the capital of Sabah, Malaysia, where we met Dr. Wadi Sinon. Dr. Wadi single-handedly protected Maleo Basin and Imbak Canyon, establishing a world-class research and educational centre.
DaMaI is very important for many reasons. One is it is the single biggest area that still retained the biodiversity that we had 100 or 1,000 years ago. It also have a lot of activity that improve the way we manage forests, like for example, rehabilitations of the forest for the purpose of carbon sequestration. On top of that, at a personal level, this area is important because this is where all the water in Sabah are sourced from.
Heading south in the Malaysian part of Borneo to discover the last pristine rainforest complex, Maleo Basin, Imbak Canyon, and the Danam Valley. Before understanding how critical the DaMaI forest is, we need to see what's happening in the rest of Sabah. So I've just received a phone call and a huge herd of elephants is heading towards a palm oil plantation. And I want to get over there to see if there's going to be elephant-human conflict. We went up the Kinabatam River in the early mist. I was seeing proboscis monkeys grazing in the canopy, exotic birds like hornbills, and there was crocodiles lying on the banks. And then we finally got our first glimpse. A herd of Borneo pygmy elephants was getting ready to cross the river. And there was a baby elephant struggling to keep its head above water. Luckily, Mum was close by. It was at that point when we realised the elephants were actually heading straight towards a palm oil plantation. So we decided to get a better look by following the elephants. I'd never seen anything like this before. The elephants were actually feeding on palm oil, while the plantation workers were trying to move them on, and this is how human-wildlife conflict actually happens. I know palm oil plantations use a lot of pesticides. I can't really imagine what the knock-on effect is. I wonder if it's related to the increasing elephant mortality rates across the whole of Sabah. There's got to be some connection. This is what happens when we lose so much forest. Wildlife has no other options. Back en route, we enter the Danam Valley Conservation Area. Hi Mahani,
Welcome,
how are
Paul,
you?
to Danam Valley. What's bringing you here?
I'm actually here for global conservation. Once inside the conservation area, we go straight to work and check the activities global conservation is supporting on the ground. After crossing several rivers and walking through some stunning landscapes, we arrive to a known poaching location. And without this work, wildlife would actually be depleted very quickly. And this is a hotspot in the buffer areas of this protected forest. So these rangers have to be in here looking to remove snares and looking for any illegal activity. So it's really important that they do these patrols on a regular basis. And that's where global conservation funding actually comes in and supports these rangers doing critical work to protect the biodiversity of this last wild place.
Paul, you can see the snake, and very fresh.
And you can see here this really thick nylon, and it's pretty much going to trap any species. Could this trap a clouded leopard or a bear? No problem?
It's no problem.
Would lock the animal?
Yep.
They're finding snares all the time, and it's ongoing through the whole of Southeast Asia. This is one of the major poaching tools used by poachers coming into these areas to take this iconic biodiversity. Wildlife crime is in huge demand across the world, and this is how it's done, and this is what's happening here on the ground in Borneo. It's a different kind of snare. So Saiful's telling me how a pangolin could get caught in here, a porcupine, a mouse deer. These things are really lethal, and they're deadly. The animals don't last long once they get caught in these snares. A real horrible, nasty way to go. Global conservation's goal is to achieve no-cut, no-kill protection. And there's only one way to get there: global park defence, advanced monitoring and ranger training to conduct effective ranger patrols.
Enforcement that I think reduce the poaching.
This is a joint operation between Sabah Forestry Department, Sabah Wildlife Department and the DaMaI Ranger units. They're here, they're checking cars coming in, checking cars coming out. They're checking for wildlife contraband, they're sending a strong message to poachers, and that's why Global Conservation has been funding the DaMaI Ranger unit for over 5 years. And we're heading out on night patrol. They're going into different parts of the conservation area, and they look for poachers and monitor wildlife. Sylvester from the Wildlife Department explained to us some of the poaching methods and the traditional weapons used against wildlife in the DaMaI Forest Complex. And they use that?
Yes.
What, to indigenous people or?
Oh, the
All farm workers.
Travelling to the conservation areas made one thing clear. Palm oil plantations are everywhere where there used to be pristine rainforest. Right now we're on the edge of the DaMaI in a palm oil plantation. And it's just these rows and rows of palm oil trees. It's a monoculture. It's void of biodiversity. And these Bornean forests, once some of the most biodiverse rich forests on the planet, now we have these small pockets. And that's what global conservation is trying to protect, these really last strongholds of wildlife, strongholds of these ancient forests. Really fresh. So I spent the last few days, we're looking for elephants, but this is how we find elephants. We track and look for elephant poo. And I don't know if I should pick it up, but I'm going to pick it up. This is the good stuff. And actually you can see, there's like, they've obviously been chewing on different parts of the forest. They literally are gardeners of the forest. And this is a perfect example how they really do help shape these forests. And if you look, this is an old elephant dung that's breaking down. You can see two different kinds of fungi growing in it. And this is how seeds are dispersed. So the elephants are constantly going through the forest, gardening. The cycle continues. And this is just a perfect example why elephants are important in the ecosystem. Fresh poo. You can see this is a footprint of a pygmy elephant, and it's actually not very big. Smallest elephants in the world, critically endangered. It's the end of the day, and we still haven't found elephants. So we just had a herd of pygmy elephants cross on the road right here in front of us. And they're actually moving through the forest here right now. At least 8 to 10 elephants in this group. And it was really, promising to see a lot of juveniles, a lot of babies in the herd. There's only 1,500 left of them in the wild, and this is why it's so important for global conservation to still keep supporting one of the last wild places here in Borneo, in Malaysia, Sabah. We're driving to Imbak Canyon Conservation Area, and apparently there's a logging operation in a commercial forest on the border. You can see up here hardwood. This is tropical timber hardwood, and these are huge logs. We're probably talking 30 meters, size of half Olympic swimming pool, huge diameter. You can see here, they've got them covered. And that's the third truck we've seen on this route, and we're going to go and see if we can find more. Where we spoke to a worker there, and apparently 45 minutes from that location, they're logging. And they're saying they're taking anywhere from 15 to 20 trees a day. So we want to try and follow this car It looks like they've got fuel for the chainsaws, so we want to just try and get in there and see if we can document some trees coming down. When I heard about selective logging, you know, I thought there was a few logs here and there, but this is like industrial scale. The logs I'm seeing on both sides, they're huge. I just didn't realize the scale of this operation. The DaMaI forest has some of the largest tropical trees on the planet. And this is what we're seeing. It's like a graveyard of logs. The Borneo forest is so small now. It's a last true ancient Borneo forest. And we're talking about the last bit on the planet. And this is how it's still managed. We've seen the palm oil. You've seen what we've done to the landscape outside of this protected area. And then this, 60% of the area is protected fully and 40% is production forest, is commercial forest. So it's allowing plantation and selective logging. But I didn't know it was at this scale. When this is the last true Borneo forest, and look what's happening. To take logs like this in 2024, this is tropical hardwood. This has taken hundreds of years to grow. Surely we can do better.
I think that the biggest challenge, I think, to me is probably related to the awareness of the people of how important this area is.
To increase local and international awareness about the significance of this forest complex, Global Conservation is working with the Sabah state and Malaysian national government towards a listing as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, to improve protection with a single management structure to increase the total size of the forest complex.
The community on the ground, they have yet to really fully understand what is this heritage that they have. And the thing about awareness is, if you don't do it early, by the time you are aware, it's already gone, and we don't want to have that.
Hey Paul, I want to show you something.
Okay, great. What's going on here? Jump over.
Okay, actually this is a rhino enclosure
This was all built for the rhino. What happened?
because when they captured the last rhino, they put it in the Tabin area, but they plan to translocate the animal here in 2019, but unfortunately our last rhino died.
So rhinos are gone forever and they're never coming back.
We did not have sufficient knowledge about the behavior of rhino, the way that they reproduce and so on, and I think that's the main reason why it became extinct. By the time we about it, and we moved animals from couple from DaMaI moved to the paddock for breeding, I think it was too late.
We can get a lesson from the rhino. We should never let time too late for protection, and I think this is the best time for us to protect our forests.
So this is an animal salt lick. Back in the day, there would have been rhinos wallowing in this situation. They would have been actually using this to cool off in the heat of a day. But sadly, in 2019, the last rhino died here in Malaysia. And it just goes to show how critical time is to protect all this biodiversity.
Global conservation have made a lot of difference, significant and crucial difference in the conservation of DaMaI rainforest complex or rainforest landscape.
Extinction is forever, like the rhinos of Borneo. For a brighter future, we really need to protect these last wild places, and that's why global conservation's work is so critical. The choice is really up to us.